Welcome to a sports betting podcast from pregame.com for the week of December 31st, 2009. I'm your host, RJ Bell. I'm joined by Marco D'Angelo, 30 years in the business, Vegas runner, TV star, genuine professional bettor here in Vegas. If you don't know what I'm saying about TV star, go to vegasrunner.com and you'll see. All right, this is segment 6 of 6, big game preview, Boise State, TCU in the Fiesta Bowl. Tell us about the line in this game.
Very interesting. This is one where the books and the odds makers had a difference of opinion. The odds maker actually sent out 4. TCU as a 4-point favorite. When the books received this number, they looked and laughed and said, no way are we hanging up 4 with TCU. And they went as high as 6, and some went as high as opening them up at 7. As of today, TCU's minus 7.5, and the total opened at 56. It's down to 54.5.
All right, so let's talk about this real quick. Odds makers are, I think there would be maybe a fairy tale might be the right word, where they think that there's these, geniuses in Vegas who somehow are coming up with numbers, and the sports books, almost like a Walmart location, takes the wheeze and say, oh, 199, okay, 199 it is. And that somehow these odds makers put this number out and the books just follow. What ends up happening most of the time is there's a tweak involved with their own opinion. Heck, sometimes these offshore books are putting up numbers before the odds makers in Vegas even put a number out. But you're saying this is an extreme case where they said, we're going to go from your number and go up a whole field goal, which is humongous, and go up to a key number in some spots.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, clearly a sign of a disrespect for the odds makers.
Absolutely.
And a disagreement between, where seemingly the odds makers weren't taking into account the public, and the sports books are saying, we got a great feel for the public here, and they're going to be betting TCU, which the fact it's moved past 7 is a sign they were right and the odds makers were wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
As a cat, now this is my free pick in this game, and we give 3 official free picks as we keep talking about. I'm actually 7-7. You two combined are 25-6. So remember, listen to what these two say a little bit more. I'm just a little more elegant, maybe. And
we should have parlayed ours every week.
There you go.
All right, so tell us about this game.
Well, I did notice one thing. Was this by design that you kept your free pick into 2010 so you could finish 2009?
I'm undefeated right now this year.
Yeah, and so you finished 2009 50%, so you didn't go below the
Yeah, but I want to beat the Jews. But go ahead, give us some info.
Well, this game here, really, I think of all the teams, TCU is the one team that deserved the shot if there was going to be one of these teams play for the national championship. This team's for real.
You say one of these teams.
Well, if Texas would not have got that last field goal.
Understood.
The consensus is it would have been Cincinnati.
There's no consensus. The BCS came out. That game didn't affect TC. The Texas game didn't affect anyone else's numbers.
Except Cincy, right? They would have went. Cincy would have went.
Cincy would have went is what I'm saying. So we know who would have went. It would have been Cincy.
To me, as a handicapper, I think this TCU team is better than Cincinnati.
Fair enough.
And I came close to making this my free pick as well.
You like TCU.
I like the TCU side here. They've got a great defense. What gets lost in the shuffle is because they score 40, 50 points a game, the defense gets lost. This team, they've only allowed one team to score over 21 points this year, and that was Utah. That's the only game all year. And they've played a tough schedule. Out of conference, they traveled to Virginia. Now, Virginia wasn't a great team, but that was an ACC team early in the year. They traveled to Clemson, and then they played BYU
So we got a
road.
good team here, no doubt about it. I've heard insiders here in town and general media guys thinking TCU may be as good as any team in the country. But the question is, on a neutral, they're laying over a touchdown to a Boise team, which didn't even play a great game and had the most impressive win of these two teams, beating Oregon at home and beating them fairly handedly in that game. So to me, the question isn't is TCU good or not? The question is, are they over a touchdown better than this Boise team?
Because they met last year. That's the good thing. We do have something to compare it to. And a lot of times it doesn't happen in college where you do get the same teams back. We have the same starting quarterback, so it's a lot of the same situation as we had last year. Last year, though, TCU was only a 3.5-point favorite in the game, and they only won by 1. But when I dug into the box scores, they totally destroyed Boise State. I mean, it was 28 first downs to 15. They held them to 28 rushing yards on 20 attempts. And this Boise State team is 20th in the country in rushing. And last year they were just as good.
Where are you leaning?
I'm leaning to TCU. I'm just not sure that I'm ready to lay more than a touchdown yet.
All right. So here's my thinking. I think that the power ranking number, the true quality of these teams number, is probably somewhere between the odds makers open and where we're at. It's probably 6, let's say. Now, getting 7.5 when you should be getting 6 is worth a play, just barely. Okay, fine. But I think there was an X factor here that makes my free pick Boise. And it's a double-edged X factor. One of the things Marco talks about a lot, and I'm sure we'll be hearing it for when we do the BCS game next week, is the underdog has to hear for 5 weeks or whatever that they're the inferior team. Now, this is a marquee bowl matchup, and the fact is, Boise not only is the underdog, but they're over a touchdown underdog, an undefeated Boise team. You know they feel slighted here.
Slighted, and this is the only team that's beat them in the last 2 years. So the only loss they have on their ledger in 2 years is against TCU.
So ultimate revenge on a national stage. Their motivation is it's as good as they were going to get. All right, Now, on the TCU side, you've got a team that really could have been in the national championship game. And even if not, they can't be excited about playing this same Boise State team that they've already beaten. So I think you may, amazingly, with TCU, have a BCS level game in which their motivation is not 100%.
You might have just swayed me towards that Boise side.
So you're getting a premium value. Because again, the Vegas came out at 4. You're getting 7.5, and maybe more come to game time. I would wait on this one. You've got a motivated team against maybe not a fully motivated team. 1 minute for anyone to possibly make a case against.
Boise QB who last season was a freshman in this game. So now he's coming back with another year under his belt and getting over a touchdown.
I'm going to stay undefeated in 2010, baby.
It's hard to argue with the guy when he uses Marco-isms for his defense.
Now,
that is a good point about the Boise. I will give you that about.
Oh, hey, producer Brandon, make sure we snip that out and we can use it as a sound drop anytime.
Yeah, but make sure you say that he was quoting me.
Even if TCU blows Boise out, it's not going to raise their standing in anyone's eyes.
Yeah, it's hard to believe they're not a little down. It's hard to believe they're not a little down about this.
Yeah, they have to be.
All right, good stuff, guys. Now, just to wrap up, we're wrapping up all 6 episodes here. If you haven't seen all of them, you can go to pregame.tv. If you're listening on iTunes, though, there's a special video, which its new name is, where's that name at?
Behind
the scenes at pregame.com. We're actually going to tack it on the end of this audio podcast. So listen through the theme song at the end, and then you're going to actually hear a special 10-minute Marco D'Angelo story that you will never forget. And if you're watching on video, just go to pregame.tv, and it's called Behind the Scenes. Otherwise, that's another great show this week. We did 6 games. You guys did a couple extra games at pregame.tv. Really good stuff. We're going to be back next week. We're going to be talking NFL playoffs and the BCS championship game. We'll be back. Talk to you then.